All right. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Office Hours. My name is Jessica. I am sometimes known as the world's most productive nurse practitioner and somebody who talks with my hands a lot. And I'm so glad to have you here, where I'm answering some questions, talking a little bit about the state of affairs in our business, in our industry, in our profession, and answering some questions from people like you about how we can make our work worlds a better place to live. Because we spend so much time there. How many hours do you spend at work every week? And how many are you supposed to spend? So, are you supposed to work 20 hours a week, right? Is that what you paid for, but you find yourself working 30? Then that's a big commitment, right? If you are paid to work 40 and that is something like 8 to 4 Monday through Friday, but you never leave before 5:30, that is a lot extra as well. Um, I've talked in other venues and in my newsletter, actually, if you don't already subscribe, you might want to check out Pizza in the Break Room on Substack, which is my weekly newsletter. I have talked about something that's called the effective hourly rate, which is how much you're really making. And in the newsletter, I go through like a whole calculation, but I'll give you like just the highlights of that for this moment, this time. What it is you look at how much you make in a year. Okay, so I'll use an easy math, like $100,000 a year, because that's kind of easy to do. And you are salaried for $100,000 a year. And what is that based on, right? So if you have a contract, it should say it very clearly, especially if you're salaried, because from their accounting side of things, they're just kind of like pumping out the same check every week or every other week. Is this based on a 40-hour work week? Is this based on a 32-hour work week with 8 hours of admin time? So that's 8 hours where you're not seeing patients, but you are still working, plenty of work in admin time. And is that, how is that broken down? And then what does that come out to hourly? So if it is $100,000 and that's based on a 40-hour work week, you can do the math there. I can't do that off the top of my head. But it comes out to like 50 something an hour, I think. And that doesn't include vacations and stuff, but we're just keeping it simple for this point. So that's what the agreement is supposed to be. That's the expectation that's what you signed up for. But then if you get in there and you have been working at this job for more than say like 3 to 6 months, like your things are kind of where they're going to be. You've learned how this place operates. You've learned how this charting system operates. You learned how these patients go. Are they always late? Are they always early? Do they always run over for every visit? Whatever the case is, like by 3 to 6 months, you kind of know where things stand. And if you look at it at that point, and instead of working 40 hours a week, which is what the compensation was based on, you're really regularly, it's 45 or 50 regularly, not one week, everybody has a bad week, but regularly that much, that is diluting how much you're making, right? So if you run that same equation, if in the first case it came to $55 an hour based on 40 hours a week, and then if you are working 45 or 50 hours a week, that's going to drop you down by like $6 an hour or $12 an hour, depending, how much extra you're working. So take a look at that. That's effective hourly rate, what you're really making, not how much you're supposed to be making, but based on how much time it's taking you to get that work done, to get those deliverables, which is the patient visits and the notes. Those are kind of the two big cornerstones. How long is it taking you to do that? And if it's supposed to be 40 hours, but it's really taking you 45 or 50, you're not getting paid as much as you think you are. The other way that you can look at that is that you're volunteering, right? So after you hit that 40-hour a week mark, anything over that is volunteer time. Who's going to volunteer at work? This doesn't make sense to do the same thing that you're paid for the other 40 hours a week. But so many of us do. It's actually pretty, I don't want to say normal, but let's say common. It's pretty common actually for that to happen. And if it isn't you, yay, right? Like round of applause, help a brother out, like help somebody else out that that's struggling and show them how they could be a little faster and get out of there a little more on time. But if it is you, you are so not alone. Like there are tens, if not hundreds of thousands of our colleagues that are just up to their ears in charts all the time. And um, it's taking a lot of time, and they are volunteering their time, or they are diluting how much that they're actually getting paid each pay period. And that's a pretty quick way to hate your job, to hate your profession, to hate your employer, to hate your life. Because work is even under the best of circumstances, 40 hours a week. That's a lot of hours. That's 8 hours of your day, right? That is a big commitment of your life to feel super dissatisfied. The work we do is stressful work, even when everything around it is as smooth as can be. Working with patients who are not well, or who want to maintain their health, or are seeking to improve it, or are addressing an acute issue is stressful. We worry about these patients. That's who we are, right? That's how we got into this business. Who's worrying about us, right? I'll give you a couple minutes to think about that, right? Because nobody. We have to worry about ourselves. We have to worry about each other. We're waiting for the system to worry for us, and that's slow going at best. So I think that really the solution is that we have to look out for ourselves. We have to advocate for ourselves. And once we get that solid, then we have to advocate for each other, right? And bring everybody else along with us, because we are the solution to this problem. So this is me getting off my soapbox at this point, and I'm going to answer a question that has come to me that I think is definitely on topic for this conversation, and is an issue. It's a hot button issue for so many of us, right? And it doesn't matter if you are working in primary care, if you're working in rheumatology, pediatrics, urgent care. Um, I've worked with dentists. I think I've mentioned that before. They have these same issues. Their charting is a different beast. Charting is much different for dentists, just in terms of the content of it. But the philosophy, very, very similar, right? We all chart. We all have to document what we did so that we can look back at that the next time we see the patient, or that other people can look at it who are also seeing the patient. So everybody has to chart, but no one's taught how, right? That's kind of universal in healthcare as an industry, regardless of your role. So the question is very simple in this case. What do I need to know to be better at charting and better at time management? So I love this question. Like, I have goosebumps to answer this question, to be honest with you, because this is my jam. I hate that phrase, but this is my jam. I really love to talk about efficiency and time management and charting, and how we can kind of cut the fluff and get really to the heart of things in a way that is going to be better for us, that is going to be better peer to peer, right? For our colleagues, and it's then really going to be better for the patients in the long run, because name me the patient that wants to see a burnt out provider, right? Come on, right? Like, we want our providers to be well and healthy. So I think that from my perspective, improving time management, charting efficiency, and like navigating workplace, non-clinical workplace issues is the path for that. That's my take. So what do I need to know to be better at charting and time management? This is such a simple answer, and I think it's powerful, but that's for you to decide. But it's such a simple answer, but it's a challenging road to travel. You need to know you. That's it. You need to know yourself. Um, Knowing the charting system that your clinic uses, knowing that inside and out helps, right? So if you guys use Epic, if you use Allscripts, if you use eClinical Works, like, fill in the name of the charting system here. If you know that, that helps. That's going to make it like a little bit better, right? But people struggle with every charting system. Like, the charting system isn't the problem or the solution. It's a factor, but it's not the problem or the solution. And knowing the clinical subject area that you work with. So if you work with peds, right? Like, really knowing like those developmental milestones and the immunization schedules, and which groups get which, who's more likely to get, I don't know, strep or whatever. I don't work with peds. So, like, strep, right? Kids get strep all the freaking time. Knowing that is absolutely going to make it faster. Like I said, I don't work with peds. So if I had to go and like do a per diem thing in a peds department, I'm gonna be slow because I'm gonna have to be looking stuff up, right? But there are things about me, even though peds is not my specialty by a long shot, there are things about me that I know about myself that are going to make it faster, right? So that the hurdle is about mastering that clinical content and refreshing my recollection of those milestones and the vaccination schedule and what to look for and what to be worried about, and what not to be worried about, depending whether you're seeing a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, right? I haven't dealt with that stuff since school, so I'm rusty. But that's quick, right? Up to date, that's what it's there for. Like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, they get this one. They don't do this, or whatever it is. It's me. It's knowing myself and how I operate, what my needs are, where I am more efficient, where I am less efficient, how I approach things, and what my barriers are separate from clinical knowledge. Knowing those things about myself are the keystones to making me efficient in any setting. So, like I said, I don't work with peds. I have in my career, I mean, honestly, I've probably seen less than 100 children ever because I did work in family practice, but like I really rarely saw kids. And if I went into today, when I finish this, if I went and worked a shift in a pediatric office, I would be done roughly on time. Doesn't matter if I've used their charting system before. It doesn't matter if I've worked with any of the people there before, any of the patients, or any of the diagnoses that I would see that day. It's because I know myself and I know how I operate. I know which things I'm quick at, and I have that flexibility, right? Adaptability is a better word. I think of time management in a clinical setting almost like playing a video game. Now, I'm not a gamer. So when I say playing a video game, I'm a Gen X kid. So I'm talking about like video games from like the 80s, like Atari, like first generation Atari. So raise your hand if that resonates. But I'm talking about simple games, not complicated. And I don't know how to play those. But I think of it like simple video games. Pac-Man, okay? So you kinda know where you're going. You have an idea, but then curveballs come at you, right? All of a sudden, there's with the ghosts, right? Like, you're trying to just, like, eat up, and get all your points, like, just right? It should be simple, but then all of a sudden, these threats or these curveballs come at you, and you have to shift around them. You have to be aware enough to see them when they arise as soon as you can, but you also have to know what your resources are, and how you can shift and how you can adapt. Because if you don't, then you're just going to get buried under this pile of boulders, right? And you're going to be there till 10 o'clock at night finishing your charting. But on the flip side, if you are able to be a little bit flexible, a little bit adaptable, and you're able to have your eyes kind of out scanning the horizon, so to speak, enough to see what these things are when they come in and recognize them for what they are and what they mean to you, then you can be flexible and adaptable. Okay. So in a pediatric setting, I'm going to have to use my imagination a little bit, but this might be, well, okay. So you go to peds and you've got your full schedule of patients, right? You've got your whatever, 20 patients for a day. And there's gonna be add-ons, right? You might have 20 slots, they might not all be full. You might walk in at 8 o'clock in the morning and have 15 of those 20 slots full. You've got 5 openings, right? And they will get filled before the end of the day. But you're not gonna know what's on them. You know what you're dealing with those 15. Okay. And I can look quickly at what I have. Okay, it's a wellness visit. Okay, it's a sick visit. It's a sports physical. Okay, I kinda know what I'm doing for those, alright. Is there anything I'm going to need to do extra to prep myself for these visits? And then you're gonna keep an eye on the schedule as you go through the day, because then all of a sudden, in one of those empty slots, you've got a 6-month-old who is crying, will not stop crying, right? And is, like, pulling at their ear. Okay. Well, I'm thinking ear infection, right? But it could also be like a teething thing, right? So let me like look at those milestones. 6 months old is teething. How's that work? What's that going to look like? So I can plan. I'm not going to wait until I see the patient. I'm going to just do a little bit of a refresh. And when I am doing that sports physical, I know that they are not leaving until they have the paperwork in their hands. So that's a note I'm going to have to write in the moment. But I'm not going to do it in the visit because People get chatty, right? So I'm going to do my visit. I'm going to kind of document hard copy on a piece of paper or on one of my templates or something like that. I'm going to excuse myself from the room. I'm going to leave about 5 minutes at the end of the visit. I'm going to excuse myself from the room and I'm going to go back to the office and I'm going to put the note together and then I'm going to walk back in and hand them what they need or fill out the form or whatever it is that they need because I know like that's the point, right? Like they not only do they want to know their kid is healthy, but they also need this form filled out. So they're not leaving until they get it. And I understand that. But I'm also going to adapt. I'm not going to be taken by surprise by that as much as I can. And I know for me, I cannot do a note in the room with a patient, and I cannot fill a form out in a room with a patient because if they start talking to me, I will talk back. Like I will have a conversation, and that's just then I'm distracted, right? So I know, like, so I'm anticipating that navigating those things. Knowing yourself is the key. If you don't have that knowledge, if that foundation is not as solid as it could be, anything that you put on it is you're going to have diminishing returns, right? So you might not have the best sense of how you work. And then say your company is switching to Epic, right? So you go to the Epic trainings or whatever, maybe you look at some stuff online and you kind of like, yeah, I'm really good at Epic. Okay, well, that makes you good at Epic, right? But if you don't understand how you need to approach different things, being an expert at Epic isn't going to get you as far. Now, if you know how you approach different things and where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and where you need to kind of detour around things, and you match that with being like super, super user of Epic, there's no stopping you. The sky is the limit. And you are going to be done at 5 o'clock with all of your notes closed and, you know, honking to everybody in the parking lot as you leave, like, toot toot, see you later. Okay. But you have to start with knowing yourself. So all of the other pieces are going to be band-aid-ish, or they are going to be something that's built on not as good of a foundation. Take that time, learn about yourself, learn about how you work, learn about what your quick things are, what your complicated things are, what your pitfalls are, right? Like I said, I can't talk to a patient like when I'm filling out a form, no, or placing an order. I leave the room to do that because it doesn't work for me. I know this. Other people can do it. I don't know how, but they can. And if that works for you, great. Good for you. You're lucky, right? Because I can't do that. So I navigate around that. When I see that coming, I plan for that because I know that about myself. Okay. So that is what you need to know. You need to get to know yourself. Reflecting back on each day is a good way to do that. What went right? What went wrong? What you would do differently if you had it to do over again? Because you probably will have another chance to do it over again and do it differently. But you need to think about that. Okay. So that is the foundation. If you are wanting to really dig into that and do that in a supportive way and with some learning and some CME, I have links for my chart club, which gives you a whole bunch of support, but also includes my course Chart Magic, which teaches you my kind of 5 points of how to master clinical time management, charting efficiency in 5 steps. And the first step is really knowing yourself. So you can get access to really walking through that in a very hands-on way and a supported way, and you can use CME money to pay for it. Right? So there's a link below. You can click on that and check it out. Questions, always send those to me. I love to answer these questions, and I read everything that you send me. So feedback, questions, comments, all of that stuff. I love it. Send it along, and I will see you next time.